Welcome to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast, where your host, Cassandra Crawley-Mayo, helps you break free from obstacles and live life on your terms. Get ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and inspiration. Tune in as we dive into captivating conversations with experts and explore topics that will ignite your passion and drive. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Let's dive in.
Good day out there to all my listeners, and I'd like to welcome you to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And I'm your host, Cassandra Crawley-Mayo. And for those new listeners out there, let me share with you what this podcast is all about. It's for individuals who are stuck. You know, in your heart of hearts, there's something else that you like to do. Something's nudging you to do it. Like, I don't know, be an entrepreneur, work in a salon, be a coach, get a job promotion, forgive somebody. I mean, it's a whole gamut of things. So this podcast, we talk about topics related to personal and business development, and it also will enable you to do some self-reflection over here. So in other words, we like to empower you to mitigate those self-imposed barriers that's preventing you from living your best life on your terms. And you know what? And today I'm featuring a young lady by the name of Judy Fambrough Billingsley. And I'm not afraid to share with you, she is my sorority sister, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. And some of my listeners may not even have heard an episode to say I was an AKA, but I'm telling it now on this session. So I'm here to introduce you to Judy Billingsley. Hey, soror.
Hey, Sorrel. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And it's a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Now, before we delve in, and first of all, listeners, this topic today is called Discovering Identity, Navigating Through Life as a Biracial Adoptee. And I know I have some listeners that have been adopted. There's some that have adopted someone. So this is going to provide you a lot of insight. So I encourage you to, as you get it, you're going to know somebody else that's been in her shoes and in your shoes. And I ask that you share this podcast. Okay. Now, what I want to do now is I'm going to read a little bit of her background before we delve into these questions. And as I indicated, I'm featuring Judy Fambrough Billingsley. She's an educator and community leader. She's driven by a lifelong quest to answer, who am I? With a BA, a California lifetime teaching credential, and a master's in education administration, Judy is a retired teacher, mother of 2, and grandmother of 4. And I remember her saying now she's a great grandmother. Oh my goodness. So, but she continues to give back as a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. So join us as we explore this it's going to be inspiring journey of a self-discovery and community impact. She is an author, and she wrote Too Brown to Keep It. Too Brown to Keep. I know you can't wait to figure out where that title is coming from. So we're going to find out. So Judy,
Yes.
I'd like to know, and my listeners, we want to know about your backstory. It's kind of like up until the age of 20, what was life like for you? What was going on back in those days?
Well, life for me began in Germany, and I was born shortly after World War II, and born to an American U.S. Army soldier, father, African-American, and my mother was German. And they did not marry, but did kind of live together periodically. And so out of that union came my sister, older sister, and her name's Irmgard, and I was Uta. And we both have German citizenship and both had German birth certificates. My birth father went back to the United States, and my birth mother sent us off to the Kinderheim, which is known in America as an orphanage. And so we were there, and we were blessed by being adopted together, my sister and I. We both have the same dad and same mom, and we were adopted and brought to the United States. So that's the biracial international adoptee part of my story.
Okay.
As we all recall in our history, that that's World War II was, Hitler and Nazi Germany, and Aryan race was the only good race around. And so I knew that I was adopted. And my dad and I, when I talk about daddy and mommy, I'm talking about the parents that raised me, adopted me in the United States. And I was blessed to have great parents who raised me. I knew that we both knew, my sister and I, that we were adopted. Back in the day, being biracial was very unique. Nowadays, it is not. But pretty unique during that time period. And I always had, even though I had great parents, I always wanted to answer the question, which is a basic human question, and that is, who am I? And I knew that I didn't look like my adopted parents. I wanted that information.
Judy, let me ask you, what age were you adopted?
I was 2. My sister was 5. And I have a half sister who my birth mother also abandoned, and she was 8. But we were not all 3 adopted together, just my sister and I.
Okay. And your half sister was somewhere else. She didn't come with you guys, or you didn't know her at the time?
No, we knew. We all lived. We all lived with my birth mother. What happened is that my sister Imgart and I, we're full sisters. We were sent to the Kinderheim. My older sister Helga was sent to the babysitter in our village. We grew up in Bingingheim, Germany, which is 45 minutes from Frankfurt. My birth mother dropped her off at the babysitter, who was right across the street, lived across the street in the village, and she went to work and never returned. So she grew up in Germany.
Okay. When did you find out? Because at 2, I don't think you kind of understood what adoption was. So when did you find out that you all were adopted?
Well, it started off that way. My adopted parents, especially my dad, who's really had the influence on us, because my sister was 5 and did understand, and she was actually turned 6 and was we came here on March 10th, 1953, and my sister started school in September. So we had already turned 6. So what I'm saying is that was something that was explained in an elementary form. We'd have to explain it. They met us in New York, flew us to California, and that's where I grew up.
Wow. So at that young age, how did that make you feel? Or do you recall a feeling at that age?
I don't have a memory. My sister, who was 5, did. However, I have a subconscious memory. And I wet the bed for a long time. And I also, even as I got older meaning started school, kindergarten and stuff, through elementary school, I finally was able to adjust to that. Also, the thing that got me is on rainy, cloudy days, even now, I get depressed. And so I know now what it is, but I didn't. I lived for much of my life not understanding what that meant. But as I've been doing my research and going back to Germany, I discovered that it was a rainy, cloudy day when we were put in the orphanage car in the village and driven out, never to see anybody ever again.
Mm-hmm. Um, um, I was reading something about your family, your sister, and your sister does not look like you. Is that correct? Is she fair skin or?
Um, well, are you asking how I got the too brown to keep?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't too brown, was she?
No, I'm the only brown skinned
Uh-huh.
of all six of us. My birth mother, out of all six of us, four of us were abandoned.
Oh.
But I always felt guilty. And that's another thing, I love your title of your podcast because how we think or perceive things can get in our way.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the issues I always had was, until discovery many years later, is I always felt like there was something wrong with me
Mm-hmm.
that then she gave all of us away. And I didn't know there were six at the time. I only knew about three of us, my sister and Helga, who was in Germany. So my sister, to answer your question directly, all of them are white-skinned. They are not biracial, except my sister, who was adopted. We together had the same African-American father. My sister had blondish hair, green eyes, fair skin. It's only when I showed up or my adopted parents who were African-American showed up that anybody thought she was Black. Yeah.
Okay.
So the title of my book, I just want to clarify for the audience and everyone, is I was doing research going back to Germany, found my babysitter, the village, and I got rejected by my older sister, Helga, who said in German to someone who translated for me,
Right.
I was the reason why our birth mother gave us up, meaning my skin was dark. So, hey, and I felt so horrible. And I went to bed in the village at Hannah Laura's house. And all of a sudden, I just was like, the title of my book that I had began writing, Too Brown to Keep. And that's how that came about.
Yeah, I love that title. I love that title. I also, as I was doing my I don't want to say research, but just
say homework, huh?
Yeah, learning more about you, your father,
birth father.
No, the adopted. Right.
Daddy.
Your dad gave you a box of information in it about your adoption.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you think made him do that? What propelled him to do that, you think?
Me.
Okay. Tell us about
in the book, I talk about, I mean, the book is only 147 pages, but I do want to say it was a lifetime of searching and back and forth. Things got in my way, not only from my head, but also from, I was a teenage mom. I got married, raising kids and family. I wasn't going to do my research. But my dad and I would talk about me being adopted. And I said, well, I want to know more. And he said, no, you're not old enough. And when I turned 25, one day I was sitting in the family room at my parents' house with my little boy. And my dad took a chair. And I describe this in the book. He took a chair, stood up in the kitchen. I'll never forget, pushed up the panels and pulled out the shoebox.
Oh, wow.
And handed it to me and said, this is for you. And I tell you, that just opened the door for me, because the papers in there were my German birth certificate, my sister's, all the adoption correspondence in German, but of course had to be translated in English. And so I had everything. I had my birth father's last known address in the United States.
Oh, really? Okay. Did you go see him?
Well,
I guess, is this in the book too?
I'm not going to tell you everything because it is in the book.
Okay. All right.
But Yes. Let's put it this way. It was a very emotional experience. To remember, we didn't have internet, okay, way
Mm-hmm.
back in the day.
Right.
So I don't know, some people old enough like me, remember that you got on your home phone and dialed
Yeah.
411 to
Right.
get the information operator. And so that's got me started finding him.
Okay. Okay.
The rest.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, in
Yes.
the box, you found out a lot of information
Yes.
and you went to Germany after that. Is that correct?
I went to Germany years later.
Okay.
I actually went in 1986, but I had been given the box about 5 or 6 years prior.
Oh, prior. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And and actually, what happened is I remember this vividly because my mother died. Talk about my adopted mother died in 1981.
Oh,
And talking about things that get in your way, one of the things is, excuse me, my adopted daddy, was okay about me researching and finding my birth parents. My
mm-hmm.
adopted mother, mama, was
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
And so I
Mm.
found my birth dad, but I did not do anything out of respect for her. I didn't
Mm.
hurt her. And
Mm-hmm.
I tried to assure her, but that's very common as I was doing my research and talking to other adoptees, that it is common that one parent, they're kind of fearful about you finding your birth parents.
Yeah.
They're feeling like, hey, are you going to go to them and not
Right.
with,
Exactly.
And
Mm-hmm.
so when my mom died February 12th, 1981,
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my dad and I said, I'm going to really push this. And so that's how I really then got started.
Oh, okay. Okay. Was your sister uh curious like you?
No, and that's what's interesting when you talk about what gets in your way. It
Yeah.
is all so individualized, very much
Mhm.
individualized. My sister, it devastated her throughout her entire life, and she died. She just died in 2021,
Oh, wow. I'm so
November
sorry.
23rd, 2021.
Uh-huh.
But all of her life, she didn't handle being abandoned um, very well. And I
Mhm.
and I do say that for me, I was able to do it. One, I have a different personality than she
Mhm.
does, but
Yeah.
also I sought counseling,
Okay.
professional counseling.
Mhm.
And that really helped me in
Mhm.
at least talking to someone and talking things out and turning the mirror, looking at myself. What can I
Mhm.
do? My older sister um, didn't want to live her life that way, and I
Okay.
respect that. And I respect.
Sure. Sure. Um, so when you got the box and she was still living when you went to your dad's, she didn't want to hear anything about it. Nothing. Okay. So it was just on you.
Yes, and
Okay.
yeah, and
Okay.
it always was, and um,
Mm.
that's just kind of how
Sure. How
I
that
let her know that I wasn't going to allow her biases to interfere with my research. That I love,
Mhm.
but I needed to do this for me, and that's letting people get in your way, and I
Yeah,
let her do that. So I tried to assure her throughout the process, and it was a lifelong process.
sure.
I don't want anyone to take the joy from my life.
Okay. Good. Good for you. Good for you. Because of your brown skin,
Hmm.
and did you say this sister had blonde hair? The
Yes.
one that just passed. Okay. What was your world like? I mean, you all lived in the same home.
Hmm.
Probably maybe went to the same school at times. I know she was older.
Hmm.
And when I said what the world was like for you, like the issues of race and belonging, and how did you navigate this what I call biracial person?
Ready to design your dream life? Join Cassandra Crawley Mayo's Create and Design Your Best Life workshop. Break free from self-doubt and obstacles and step into a life of purpose and fulfillment. Click the link in the description to register now. Don't wait. Spaces are limited. Start living your best life today.
That's an excellent question.
Thank you.
And I actually talk about growing up. I was adopted in Bakersfield, California, which was one of the centers for the KKK. And my daddy, who adopted us, was a very successful businessman. He bought a home in an all-white neighborhood, and they burned the KKK cross on our front yard.
Oh my.
So even though we are not in the South, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the middle of California.
Wow.
My dad was extremely instrumental in helping us to navigate both worlds. Being African-American, we went to an all African-American church. In fact, most of the people in the church were our relatives because my mom had 13 brothers and sisters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I went to, and then my dad being a businessman, he would go to, because he had money during that time period, white people would invite him because they wanted, investment partnership about the money. And my dad made sure we understood, don't get it twisted. It's not like they like me for my brown skin, for my money. And so we navigated both worlds, learning to code switch, learning to fit into the norms of where we were, whether it was at an opera thing or whatever, we would go to. And to being able to hang in family picnics, which are all African-American. Our church was African-American.
Yeah.
My parents were lifetime NAACP members. They also were very political in politics. So I learned from them.
Okay.
I also want to state that one of the things that biracial people don't necessarily talk about, but I do, is it wasn't just about white people. I got rejected because I was not white enough to be white, and I was not black enough to be black.
Yeah.
So I got bullied in school, especially middle school. My dad pulled, when I graduated from middle school, put me in an all-white private Catholic high school. And the best thing he did for me, because I could focus on my education and not be fearful about fitting in, because all of us want to fit in.
Right.
So biracial people, we live, and I'm writing my second book on this. We live in the middle. We live in the middle. And even today, when there's even more biracial kids and it being acceptable, we still have that, dynamic. So how I navigated was doing the best I could at any given moment.
Yeah. What I find fascinating, and and obviously your dad was an educated man, that they would adopt you, both of you, knowing the challenges that they would have.
Yes.
Did they ever talk about why they did that, or that just wasn't a discussion of theirs?
Actually, it was. One, my dad did not finish the 8th grade.
Okay.
But he was educated through experience and common sense. And his mom died, so he quit school and worked with his dad. He lived in Los Angeles, California. Came to Bakersfield. But they adopted us. My mom had 3 miscarriages because they were trying for kids.
Okay.
And of course, remember, that's way back in the day.
Yeah.
Where we didn't have all the medical stuff that, could have happened. And what happened really is that during World War II, for Germany, there were 5,000 of us biracial kids who were left behind due to war.
Yeah.
And out of the 5,000, about 500 to 600 of us were chosen by Miss Mabel Grammer. You can Google her up. And she was determined to have us adopted by African-American parents in America. So my sister and I were two adoptees out of about 500 that went to the United States. And my parents adopted us. And she encouraged my parents, don't just take one, take both. Because in the orphanage, my sister, when people came through looking at the kids, and she would take me and put me in a closet and close the door. She was so fearful about being separated. So that was, and I'm glad she did that, because she was my mama in the orphanage, and we were adopted.
And that was Miss who?
Mabel Grammer, M-A-B.
Okay, so she's the one that put you in the closet.
No, my sister put
Your sister put you in the closet.
In the orphanage. Mrs. Grammer, I talk about her because she's very well known back in the day. That she lived in Germany, and her husband, Oscar, was in the military. So she began visiting orphanages and seeing all of us biracial kids, being dumped in the orphanages.
Wow.
Yeah. So she decided, and so we were advertised in the Baltimore, Maryland Afro newspaper.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I have a picture of it in my book. And that's how African-American parents who are looking and just reading the newspaper.
Yeah.
Sister and our pictures are in there. I have a copy of the newspaper.
Oh my goodness. Wow. What a story. I also read that you have a Jewish heritage?
Yes. My grandmother was Ashkenazi Jew, full. She came from Poland and married my grandfather, who was German. And of course, during the war, they were rounding up Jews, and they came by and pulled her out of that house. Somebody told on her, and she died in the concentration camp.
Wow.
And so when I did my DNA, 23andMe DNA, my birth mother is 50%, and I'm 25% Ashkenazi.
Oh, wow. When you go around speaking, am I correct? You do speak. Do you speak about me being Black, the too brown to keep, or what are some other topics you speak about?
I do certainly mention it and talk about how I came about titling the book, because it is a unique title, and I got a bit pushback by publishers who said that I should not, make that cover of my book, and I was like, I'm going to publish my own book. So I do talk about abandonment, which is very common, a human trait of all of us, because we can all be abandoned. I was abandoned through my birth mother and father, but you can be abandoned even living in a house where a person abandons you from love and affection. You can be abandoned through death, through divorce. And it's simply about, not having that connection with people for one reason or another. Yeah. So that's a real common theme I find that people can relate to. My audience, when I speak, predominantly is not adoptees or foster, but people who are interested in it. And so I hit the gamut of themes. I don't dwell on one particular.
Okay. So when you have filling out an application, they ask you your race. What do you put?
That's cool. Well, I'm laughing because it really I've been I've been around here a long time. So
Uh-huh.
I'm not stuttering to answer it. I just want to
Right.
explain. Way back in the day, you
Uh-huh.
only had a few choices. I
Right.
do relate as African American, whether
Uh-huh.
I check the box or not. But nowadays, it depends. A lot of times I'll just leave it blank. Sometimes I'll say other, and
Mhm.
but most of the time it's African American. There's no doubt in my mind who I am. I'm very
Mhm.
confident in myself now and who
Mhm.
I am. I do have to say that I really like that I have acknowledged that I'm both.
Mhm.
When you look at my DNA, I'm 51%, European, but I don't look it, okay?
Right.
And
Mhm. Mhm.
my dad has always taught us, look, you're African American, you are biracial, you do have this component in your life, and
Mhm.
that people are going to see you as
Mhm.
African American, just like my sister. I look more like my mother. My sister has my dad's features, African American features, but because of the color of your skin, how
Mhm.
most people see you is by your
Wow.
skin color, not
Uh-huh.
by your features. I'm African
Uh-huh.
American. I'm a proud African American.
Uh-huh.
It.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, what lessons have you learned from your quest?
I learned that, and speaking for your podcast as well, I was in my own way for many years because I that self-worth.
Mhm.
I was grateful that I had a dad who saw that in me and therefore would call me little brown girl and you're okay. And when I would get rejected, especially by African American students and stuff, I'd go home and tell him, and he'd give me a pep talk.
Mhm.
And I was driven to find both of my birth parents, which I did, accepting them for who they were and the decisions they made at the time. What it brought me to is my chapter on love, forgiveness, and healing.
Mhm.
And that for me, I discovered who I was. I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to allow anyone who hurts me to take away the joy in my life. I'm going to be joyful. Uh, Forgiveness for me is not forgetting. I'm
Right.
never going to forget. But
Right.
forgiveness for me is not allowing my birth mother,
Mhm.
my birth father, but mainly my birth mother, because my birth father was in the United States when she gave us up. I'm not going to allow her actions, to take the joy from my life and for me to be the best person that
Good.
I can be.
Good. That's excellent. Okay, I'm going to ask you this.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
was dating like? Did you date both races, all races, or your preference was African American?
I didn't have a preference.
Okay.
We tend to, and I taught sociology and psychology for years, we tend to date people that we have common interests with,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
regardless of race.
Okay.
I lived, I dated a lot of African American
Mm-hmm.
um, guys. I also I didn't date too many white guys, although I was at an all white school and all of that. When
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah.
in college, it was just, my interest was track and field and studying. I did not hang out I was in the library. I was always a good student.
Mm-hmm.
So predominantly African American
Okay.
is what.
Okay. Okay. Um, so what's your why for telling your story?
Well, I didn't start off
Mm-hmm.
with telling my story to anyone except my very, very close friends. I'd say, guess what? I discovered, and I have a younger sister who was adopted. She was adopted 15 years later than I
Uh-huh.
in the States. But as I began sharing my story, um, people would say, you need to write this down. You need to write a book. And so I
Mhm.
began writing.
Okay.
And then as I continued to write, I realized that I wanted to leave a written legacy to my kids
Okay.
versus oral, because oftentimes oral stories, they get changed. That's just the natural process of communication. And also because I had also, I had married a white man who I have my 2 kids by, my 2 sons. And I wanted them to have my written legacy, those pictures, because I didn't know who they would marry. And I wanted my grandsons, I have 4 grandsons. I want them to know who I am, even when I'm gone. And now I have a great grandson. And so for me, it was more about leaving a written legacy for my kids. I didn't think much of it until I began doing my book tours, realizing that, hey, a lot of people can relate to the themes that I have.
Yeah. So you understand it with your children, because would you say they're biracial?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And so because of your experience, and things have changed from back then, but then some things haven't not really changed.
That's right. And I want to interject. So this may give you the question. Another question to ask is, I have a son that's blonde hair and white skinned, and I have a son that is brown like me, and both of them have the same father. Okay. And yes. And what happens is in Bakersfield, where I, grew up, of course, they would see my kids and everything. There was a rumor that my blonde-headed son, who's the youngest, was really my oldest sister, my sister. They rumored that, she birthed him and gave him to her.
Yeah.
People don't really understand the dynamics of genetics and DNA, but they are both, like my sister and I were. And that, of course, makes me teach them. They are great domino players. They can hang with the best of anybody black, and they can hang with the best because they golf with anybody who's white. And yes, I want them to be able to navigate the world, because regardless of what we think, this world is ran by white people. And for me, and I'm not saying it in negative, please don't misunderstand me, listeners. What I am saying is the dominant culture in America is white. And that any other of us, whether we are black and white biracial, whether we're Japanese and black or Japanese and white, all of us minorities, we have to live in 2 worlds. I saw that with my students as well. They live in both worlds.
Okay. Did your sister ever marry and have children?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And so they're biracial.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I remember when I was doing my research and my studying. The main thing that struck me was, who am I? That's what you wanted to know. Who am I? So I ask you now, on the August the 26th, I think, 2024, different time zone in your area, different in mine. Who are you now?
Oh, that's a great question. I am a lot of things. One, I'm at peace. I'm at peace with myself. I am in harmony with myself. I am confident in myself. I am a mother. I am a grandmother. I am a great grandma now.
Yes.
I'm an educator. I'm an American, and I'm proud to be an American, regardless of the faults of America. I am proud to be here. Just came from Germany last Saturday, flew back home to the United States. I am a woman. I am an African-American woman. I'm a biracial woman. I'm an international adoptee woman. I'm a composite of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And more important for me than anything is that I am truly happy at who I am.
That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome that you're in a great place. Your quote about Mario
Yes.
Balotelli quote.
Yes.
They say that abandonment is a wound that never heals, but I say only that an abandoned child never forgets.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
Even though I say I'm at peace, I'm working on, because abandonment affects your relationships with people.
Yes.
And I have great leadership skills. I'm not bragging. That's just the truth. I have great leadership skills, but I don't have as good one-on-one relationship skills. I'm working on those because one of the things that I discovered through research and then turning the mirror on me is that we abandon folks. We don't want to get too close to people because we're afraid that they're going to leave.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
And so I am working on things. So please, when I say I'm at peace, I am at peace, but I'm working on things. I want to be the best person that I can be. And to me, I will continue doing that till the day I die. I'm not going to ever be perfect, but I'm trying.
Yes, we're all a work in process, right?
Yes. Yes.
Judy, how can my listeners get in touch with you?
Well, if you Google me, Judy Fambrough, and you don't have to spell the name right, it'll come up, or just Judy Billingsley. I have a website. I am on Facebook. I have a personal Facebook page. I also have an author Facebook page, and that'll pop up as well. And you can email me. And I am on Amazon.com for my book. It is a good read. And I'm very proud of the book. I am not an English major, okay?
Okay.
And I heard one of your podcasts, the indie lady.
The indie author. Yeah.
The author. And I laugh because I didn't, if somebody had said write a book when they did earlier, I was like, I can't stand English.
Right. Exactly.
That's one of those things of not letting things get in your way. And that was one of them. And I began just doing a little research and starting in. And so, writing, I'm okay with it now.
Well, good. Because I'm going to get your book. I'm looking forward to reading it. In my book, I don't have that many pages either. And I understand how authors are proud of their books. And I hear you have another one in you.
Yes.
And so do I. Any parting words for my listeners? Anything that's in your gut, or you think is something they need to hear? Or
well, I would say that oftentimes what gets in our way is fear. That's I was reading a book. I'm getting ready. I was invited as a guest, the guest speaker for our foster parenting conference here in California, an annual conference in October. And I was doing some research, and they were talking about the two basic components of our emotions are fear and love, the bottom line. And I would say, not only to myself, but to everyone, that fear really is the piece that gets in our way, and that we've got to just work on it and build confidence and know that you can do it. You can do it. And my dad always said the word can't, we could not use the word can't in our house. It was never, I can't.
Good. Okay. Yes. Is your dad still living?
No, he isn't, unfortunately. He died in 1995, but my sister and I, my younger sister and I, were talking the other day about how great an influence he had
Yeah.
on all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
I
would-
was going to say that. Mm-hmm.
He really did. And
Mhm.
I talk about it in my book. But
Okay.
we can all do it, everybody, listeners. We can do it. We can.
That's right. That's right. Well, Judy, thank you so much, my listeners. I know that you were inspired by this podcast. I know many of you can relate. You have friends that certainly can relate. So I ask that you share this. This podcast will be on all platforms, and discovering identity, navigating through life as a biracial adoptee. That's the title. And I also ask that you hit when you go on that, hit publish on the website, on the podcast. The podcast is also on my website as well. Subscribe. I meant to say subscribe to the podcast. So again, Judy, thank you. To my listeners, as I always say, bye for now and God bless you.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've been enjoying our empowering conversations, make sure you don't miss out on future episodes of Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. Stay in the loop with all the latest episodes. Join our mailing list over at CassandraCrawley.com. And before you go, hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe now. Until next time, let's get ready to live your best life.